Hi, in this Blender 2.8 tutorial, you're going to learn how to make this human head male mesh that you see in front of you. And basically how this is going to work is the tutorial is going to be presented to you in full narrated mode. Every step that I do, I try to say. I not only try to say what I'm doing, but why I'm doing what I'm doing. You're going to work from a grease pencil sketch of this character. We're going to bring in two spheres and some other shapes. We're going to use that to basically block out the basics of this character mesh. We're then going to use the Boolean tool to combine those different shapes together. We're then going to go into sculpt mode. We're going to sculpt the details that you see here. As we work through the tutorial, you're going to learn how to learn how to make these eyebrows, how to make these eyeballs, the eyelids here. You're going to learn how to take curves and then use those curves to make the hair that you see right here. You're going to learn how to take another piece of mesh and make some of the hair that you see here on the side. You also will learn how to make teeth as well as a tongue. And then after we're done all that, I'll show you how to put these shape keys on here so that you can just see the character with some different expressions on its face. So let's get started. So here's our eyelids. We can get easy thickness on this by going to the modifier menu, clicking add modifier, going to the solidify modifier, and then left clicking and dragging to the right. So now we have this nice thickness here. We're going to right click, select shade smooth. Now we still have our 3D cursor here, so we're going to hold shift, press A. This brings up our add to menu. We're going to go to UV sphere. Here it is here. We're going to press S to scale this down. Like that. I'm going to press R to rotate on the x-axis, 90, then left click. When I did that, the way this is set up, see how you can see like the circles are facing towards us, if you will. That's why I've rotated that eye. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on this eyelid part right here. I'm going to go to mirror to put a mirror modifier on here. Then I'm going to click here, select the empty. So I'm going to click on the eye, hold shift, click on eyelid, hold control, press L, and then I'm going to select modifiers. And what that did was that just took the modifiers from our eyelid. Granted, it put a solidify modifier on here, so let's take that off. So basically, what was on here when we selected the eye, then we selected this second, and then we pressed Control L. That popped the menu up. We chose from that menu modifiers, and that copied everything was from here as far as the modifiers onto the eye. So now we have the solidify modifier in the eye. We don't want that, so we're going to click this X to take that away. This still leaves us with a mirror modifier, which we do want. We're going to right click and select shade smooth now. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back. Left click on nothingness to deselect. Press 1. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. Press 3. I'm going to click here, go to sculpt mode, go to the grab brush, pull this back some, press 3. Grab the mouth to pull this back some like that. Okay, I'm gonna hold Control as well as Shift. Which lets me draw a mass select. So I held Control as well as Shift, and it let me drag this mass select. Now this isn't selected because this isn't part of this object. When I say this, I'm talking about the eyelids and the eyeball. All right, so I masked everything that is here. The reason why I did that was I wanted to work with these brows. Wanted to bring them down like this. I'm going to go to, let me make sure and it's not on, dynamic topology is on. Go to the crease brush. Put this crease work here. Now I'm going to hold Alt M to take away that mask. I'm going to go to front view. I'm going to go to our front reference. Click on the, now I'm clicked on it. Okay, here we go. I was looking for this image so we could make this bigger. I mainly wanted to see where the mouth was at. Bring that back somewhat like that. I'm gonna click the triangle to take that away now. Okay, so I want the mouth to be up more, so I'm clicking inside pieces of the mouth, move them up some. Then I'm going to click here, go to sculpt mode. I'll hold Control Shift, draw a mask around here. I'll draw a mask around here as well. So now with that done, I'll click here, grab brush, make this big. Okay, what we're going to do is with this grab brush is pull this up. That went better actually than I had expected it to go. Now I'm going to hold Control, press I. So now that part is protected, that lip part. So what we can do is hold Control, well, what is it? Shift Control, and then left click. Grab this other unprotected part. I'm going to hold Shift as well as Control, grab around here. So now we're just moving this up. Like that. I'll hold Alt M, press F, then the weird artifact like stuff, we'll just smooth that out. And this is up too much. Shift, smooth this out. There we go. There's one. Okay, I'm going to go to the blob brush, press F to shrink this. Put in this thing here back. Just making sure my dynamic topology is on. It wasn't, it's on now. I'm going to go to the crease brush, hold Control so that it comes out, it being the crease brush, so we can Sharpen that lip there. I'll go to the inflate brush, inflate some of this here like this. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to turn to the side. I'm going to go to the blob brush, hold control to put this depression in the ear like this. And then as far as the ear, there's like a Y shape that comes in the ear. And the Y is kind of like this. And it runs here, kind of runs down and around. There's another piece here that comes out like that. Y shape kind of runs here. I heard somebody describe it, and I like what they said. They were like, there's the hook. So basically, like, this one shape is like this hook shape is like here. So it's like a hook. Then there's the Y. And the whole of the ear basically kind of goes in around here. This is a general thing of the ear. General shape of the ear, I guess I should say. Holding control, not holding control, holding shift. Holding control. I go to the grab brush. Change the shape of the ears somewhat. Sometimes you're doing things like this, turning off dynamic topology helps. I'm going to hold control, hold shift to draw a mask right here. I did that because I want to grab this here to pull this down more like that. I'm going to go to the if I'll press Alt M, I'll press inflate to try to take away some of that sharpness there. Up, I need dynamic topology back on. I was wondering why it wasn't responding quite how I expected it to. There we go. Holding shift. Go to the grab brush. Up something like this, hold shift to smooth that out. To inflate. I want this part to not be quite so high, so I'm going to go to edit mode. I'll go to the wireframe, press B for box select. select that, press. Oh, before I do that, I'm gonna make sure I have on this connected proportional editing tool. Then I'm gonna press. I have this on the 3D cursor. Let's change this back to the medium point, which is Blender's default pivot point. There we go. Press G, then Z. I'm going to go to scope mode. Keep the dynamic topology off. Press F to increase my brush. Pull that out some. Increase here. As well as here. I'll turn dynamic topology back on. Crease brush. Holding shift and middle mouse button to pan. F to shrink my brush down with the crease brush. Bringing this crease here, down here, down around this area that I just like puffed up, then here. Holding control for here. And press F. Smooth this out some here. Okay, I'm holding the middle mouse button, taking a look. I'm going to go to the grab brush, press F, grab right from here, push in from here. I'm going to go to our crease brush, then press F to decrease the size. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to stylize its face. We're going to make this overly angular, and you'll see why fairly soon. Turn on dynamic topology. You go to different modes in Blender. Sometimes this will turn off. So just different areas where I would like to make hard angles. These aren't going to stay. So I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. It's like here. I'm holding control, and that's how I'm getting this hard line, by the way. So crease normally digs in. I'm holding control, so this is Now I'm letting go of control, by the way. So now it's digging in. And I'm looking for basically angles that are hard and just emphasizing them. I'm holding control. Holding control. Holding control. Holding control. Still holding control. Holding shift and middle mouse button. Pan. Holding control. I'm going to go here and increase that geometry some. So I'm holding shift to smooth now. Now I'm back to, oh. Now I'm holding control. There we go. Holding control. Whoa. I go to grab brush, press F to increase the size of this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to go to object mode. I'm going to go to our modifier tab, click add modifier. We're going to add a smooth modifier. For the factor, we're going to change this to 1. We're going to look here, and then we're going to slide this to the right. So it's 2, 3. And we're just looking. I'm just going to click, seems better. That's how this is smoothing out our face. That's why we made such hard lines, because smooth modifier generally makes your scopes look better because it smooths everything out. If we click this here, we can see what things look like without it. So the overly sharp lines actually become soft lines. Okay, 30 is our maximum. If you want more, you can always take this up. I mean, you can always apply it and then do the smooth modifier again. Okay, I'm going to apply that. Go back to sculpt mode. Our dynamic topology is turned off, which for now is fine. I'm going to go to inflate. So when the plan is making this thicker, then I'm going to flatten that out some. I'll just take the flatten brush there. Flatten brush there. Then I'll go to the crease brush, holding control. I'm going to turn it back on. Dynamic topology now. Hold shift. Okay. When I zoom back, take a look at him. Look at this grab brush. This out some. This chin pointier. Yep. Didn't want to do that. Move that out some. Right. Make sure you look at your face from different angles. Press F. Push. Okay, I'm going to go back to object mode, modifiers, put another smooth modifier on. Let me take this up to 10. Apply that. Okay, let's give him some eyebrows. I'm going to hold shift and hold the right. Hold shift, press the right mouse key to move the 3D cursor to here. I'm going to go back to sculpt mode. Fairly quickly. Dynamic topology turned off. Give him back some of his edges, not as crazy as before, but holding control. Holding control. not holding control. Holding shift to smooth this out. Holding control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. Holding shift. I went back and forth between holding control and not holding control there. Holding control. Holding control. Okay, I'm gonna go to object mode. Where's this? We're gonna hold shift, press A, put in the plane, go to edit mode, and we're gonna hold Alt M and then collapse that. We're going to go to vertex select. So we should have one. Turn this off. I'm going to click here, select disable. With that, when I say click here, that was the proportional editing tool that I just turned off. That one dot right there is our vertex right there. So now what we're going to do is go to object mode. We're going to click to turn this on. This is snapping. We're going to click right next to here, this triangle. We're going to set this to face. And then we're going to put a check mark next to this project individual elements. Okay, so now with that done, we're going to go back to edit mode. This one face, we're going to press, as soon as I press G, now that dot will be snapped to the face. So I'm just pushing that into place to prepare to make his eyebrow. I'm just going to hold control and then right click. And when I move the mouse, the vertex goes right along to wherever I right click. So now we have these lines here. So now what we can do is press A. Then we can press E. Right click and then pull these faces up like this. Vertices, I should say. So we'll go to object mode. So now with this there, we'll go to our modifier tab. So we'll add a solidify modifier. Drag this to the left. We'll hold control, press 2 to put a solidify not a subdivision surface modifier on this. We'll right click, select shade smooth. If we have some thickness, let's press S to scale in the Z axis. So with this selected, I'm going to add a mirror modifier, which you can see down here. I'm going to click here and select empty. So now we have an eyebrow on the other side. So now I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to go to edge select, click here, hold control, click here. I use what's called the shortest path. When I clicked here and then I held control and clicked here, I was able to pull this, connect that path. Okay, so with that selected, I'm gonna pull this up. like that. I'm going to left click off to deselect. Then I'm going to left click here, then go to object mode. Okay, as far as this solidify modifier, I'm going to click apply. Okay, so with that applied, I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to hold control, then press R, right? Held control and pressed R to put this loop cut. I'm going to move this up like this, not all the way to the top, but close to it. I'm then going to hold control, press R to put another loop cut in. When I left click once, and you see that line there, I can move the loop cut, so I'm moving this down. Then when I left click a second time to lock that in, I'm going to go to our subdivision surface modifier here and click that. Just to have the eyebrows be sharper. I left clicked on nothingness to select nothingness. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I am going to hold shift, press C. That put the 3D cursor in the center. I'm going to hold shift, press B, and draw a zoom box around this just to zoom back in. The 3D cursor is now in the center. I'm going to hold shift, press A. I'm going to bring in a UV sphere. I'm going to roll back, press 1 on the number keyboard to go to the front view. I'm going to go to edit mode, left click on nothingness to deselect everything. I'm going to click to go to wireframe. I'm going to go to this face. Like, by the way, see how this wireframe, we really can't see much here. If you are in a situation where you're trying to select and you can't see much, what you can do is go to overlays, and then you can see this geometry wireframe. It's at 1. We can bring this down. And now by bringing that down, see all the geometry here. So now it's easier to work. And of course you can bring it back up. So I'm on face select, which is what I want to be. I'm going to press B for box select. I'm going to select actually, let's see. Trying to think what I want here. Okay, I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to select, press B and select this back part. Well, I didn't want this. I'm going to press C. So now that I have that, I'm going to press Y. When I press Y, I separated this from this part here. So now I'm going to hover here, press L. L lets me select all this geometry. Then I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Okay, what I'm going to do now is go to object mode. I'm going to turn this to solid view. I'm going to turn off snapping by clicking that magnet. I'm going to push this back. Okay, see this distance right here. We're actually going to shrink this by pressing S. So we'll shrink it so it's just basically going into the head. Now go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to press A to select everything. And then what I'm going to do is press E to extrude, right click. Now I'm going to hold Alt, press S, then hold Shift and scale this up like this. I'm going to left click. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take a look. I press S to scale on the Y axis like this. I'm going to press 1 to go to front view. I'm going to left click. I'm then going to go to wireframe mode. Go to, I'm on face select. I'm going to press B for box select. Select half of this. Press X to bring up our delete menu. I chose, after I brought the delete menu, I press faces to delete. I click back here to get out of wireframe mode. I click here to go to the mirror modifier. Then click here. I'm going to go back to wireframe mode. I'm going to click and then bring this geometry back up so I can see where the head's at. I'm going to wireframe mode. Now I'm pushing this down like this. Now I'm going to go back to solid view. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm then going to hold control, press 2. Go to scope mode. Okay. Let me go back. Scope mode doesn't like the mirror modifier. So I am going to click apply. Now I'll go to scope mode. And I do not want to apply the subdivision surface. So we're going to go to the grab brush, press F, pull up here, push this in. This here, bring this out. This here we can actually go to inflate. Bring that out like that. I'll go back to the grab brush. And we're basically making a something for the other hair. We're going to make some hair strands. We're making a base for them to go on. Like be underneath. I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to select all of this, hold control, press B. Like this. So I held control, press B, then I held shift and I'm left clicking now. Thinking. I'm going to press C. Actually, I'll deselect. I'll click on nothingness. I'll hold Shift and Alt. I'm just going to click here like this. I'm clicking right on the edge, like I'm skipping an edge, and I'm holding Alt. Now I'm going to press E, hold Alt, press S, then hold Shift. I'm just bringing that out. I'll left click here. I'm gonna go to front view, go to edit mode, wireframe. I'll go to face select. I'm on face select. Select more than half. Press C. Okay, I'll go to vertex select. Now I'll press C. Now I'll hold the... Trying to press, there we go. Hold the middle mouse button to deselect. Let's see, if I press B, see if I can remember how to do this. You press B. There you go. Hold the middle mouse button and then drag a box select. You will deselect. So when you press B and select, right? Like if I wanted to select this, I would press B and then draw a box, right? If I want to deselect it, I press B just like I would. But then instead of left clicking and dragging, I press and hold the middle mouse button. It looks like everything disappears. It does. And then I, grab here and now it deselects whatever's there. So it's pretty useful to know. I'm going to go back to face select. I'm going to press X, choose faces to delete. I'll go back to solid view. I'm going to click here, press X, choose faces to delete that. Then I'm going to go to object mode, go to the mirror modifier, turn on clipping. I'll go back to edit mode. Edge select, hold Alt. I'm just pulling that line over because I have clipping on. This automatically merges. Same thing should happen in the back. I'll hold Alt. Oh, here we go. Alt here. Pull this over because of merging. And then when I click this here, both sides will look pretty much the same. As far as like the geometry and everything here, when I make most things that I make them to be animatable. So my thought process as I'm doing this is, for me, this isn't a permanent thing. This is something along the way to being I'm selecting this by pressing C, by the way. Press X and faces to delete that. This is something along the way for me to animate this in the future. As far as this hair piece here, this is really just a stand-in for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this mirror modifier up. Wait a second. Okay, so I'm going to apply the mirror modifier. And the reason why I'm applying the mirror modifier is so that I can, actually, let's duplicate this here. I'm going to hold Shift, press D, duplicate that, press M. This brings up our Move to Collection menu. I'm going to select New Collection. I'm going to name this Miscellaneous, MISC. Click OK. And then here that is here, I'll name this hair basic. I'll take away the monitor and the arrow so I can't select that. So now that I have that backup, I'll take this, I'll apply this, and then I'll go to sculpt mode. In sculpt mode, I will click on the top, go all the way to the bottom, go to symmetry lock, turn off symmetry lock. And with the symmetry lock off, what I can do now is I can, pull this hair so it doesn't look so uniform. If I move back, I'll hold control, move back. And I'm able to do this because I have the symmetry lock off. I have a nice side, so I'll push this forward, bring this out some. Okay, I'll hold control in the middle mouse button to zoom back. Let's try inflate this some. What I'm doing is I'm going right to those extrusion lines and making them bigger. Hold and shift as well as the middle mouse button, pan. And once they're big enough, I'll just go between them. Try to can actually, well, this really is be too in depth with this. Just pulling out the hair in the back to make it go more down the neck. I'm doing this without dynamic topology on. There's a mode that is pretty cool when you are, if right now where you're currently in Eevee, when you're working with different objects, if you want to make things easier to see, if you go to Workbench, a second. There's a way to make colors random. I'm like, am I forgetting? Okay, here we go. So yeah, it was on the mat cap. That's why I didn't see. So you click random. It's pretty cool. You can see all of your different objects very easily by clicking that random. Yeah, so it's just a studio, so that works in Eevee as well. What in the world? That works with matcap as well. Did not know that. That's cool. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go to object mode. We're going to make some strands of hair. I'm going to click here, press M, move this to miscellaneous. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold shift, press A. We're going to bring in a curve path. We're going to move this up like that. We're now going to hold shift, press A. We're going to bring in a curve circle. We're going to move this up like that. We're going to move this off to the side. We're going to click here. With this curve clicked on, we're going to click on our curve panel right here. You only see this panel when you're selected on a curve. Okay, so with this curve selected, we're going to look for where we see geometry. We're going to click here. We're going to go to where we see bevel. We're going to click here. We're going to select the Bezier circle, which gives us this. With this, we're going to go to edit mode. We're going to click right here. We're going to hold Alt, press S, scale this down like that. We'll click here, hold Alt, press S to scale this down like that. I'm going to press A to select everything, S and then X to make this longer like that. Holding the mouse button, rotate the view. Click here. Hold Alt, press S to scale that down more like that. Holding the middle mouse button, rotate. Okay, so now that we have that, we'll click here. Well, here is, I want to click on this Bezier circle. I'll go to edit mode here. Press A to select everything. Then you're going to right click, select subdivide. You're going to go to control points here. Set handle type, and you want to set this for free. So this is basically going to be a hair, right? So this thing right here is going to control that hair. So we clicked free so we could click these handles. We'll click our manipulator, and when we move this up, see those lines coming in? Pretty cool, actually. So here we'll click here. We'll pull this left click to deselect. What's going on here? I'm pretty sure I could. Should be free. Oh, I see. You have to select it, then there. So this isn't free until I go to control points. Then I set it as free to one side, and we have this. So if you can see that as I move these control points, click here, control points, set handle type free. So now we have this, pretty cool looking control hair right there. So I'm going to click here, go to object mode. Okay, so I'm going to click here, move this back. I'm going to press S to scale. Shift D is what I'm pressing now. I'll right click. I duplicated this. So this was selected. I press Shift D. I'm going to click this as well as this. Press M. Move this to miscellaneous. Here's miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is a collection, by the way. That's what I mean when I say miscellaneous. I'm going to click and turn off the ability to grab and see them. I'll also turn it off for the whole collection. So now I'll click here, then go to edit mode. If we want to make changes, we can go back, push this down. I'll push this up like this. So there's one type of hair we can use on him. So for now, I'll push this over to the side, hold control. Shift in the middle mouse button, pan. Now I'm going to hold Shift A. Bring in a Bezier curve. I'm going to hold Shift, press A. Bring in a plane. That. And we did this to make a different type of hair strand for this. What we want to do is, the way this is brought in, we're going to go to Vertex Select. I'm going to click here, hold Shift and click here. So with those 2 points facing towards us, I'm going to hold Alt, press M. Then I'm going to select at center. So that was a merge, Alt M merges. So now I'm selecting here, holding Shift. Now I'm going to hold Alt M. That brought up our merge menu. I'm going to select at center. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, now that I did that, and that was a plane, that was a mesh plane, by the way. So with that mesh plane, and that's it here. I name this a bevel control. I'm in object mode, selected on this mesh that we just merged to get it to look like this. I'm now going to go to object. I'm going to go to convert. And then for convert to, I'm going to choose curve from mesh. So I'm going to left click. So now this is a curve. Okay, with that, so that done, I'm going to click here to select this. I'm on the curve menu. I'm going to go down to the bevel here. Click here. Have this bevel control. I'll left click there. So now we have this here. So we have this other type of hair here. Okay, with this type of hair, even though this is a curve, I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis. What we can do is go to the modifier panel. We still can put a solidify modifier on this curve to give this thickness. I'm going to click here, press M, move this to the miscellaneous collection. I'm going to hold Shift, push this to the side. So we have that in case we want to use that. I'm going to click here, hold Shift, press D, right click, and pull this over to the side, push this down. Pressing S to scale. S to scale again. Pushing this forward. S to scale again. I'm going to press 1. Hold the mouse wheel to zoom in. We go to our front reference. Turn up the transparency. Okay, I'm going to click here. I rotate on the Y axis. Click that front reference again. Or to rotate on the Y axis like this. Oh. It jumped because I tried to rotate. I'm gonna press R to rotate on the Z axis. Now, right now the origin point is right here. We can make things easier by holding Shift and then right clicking. So the 3D cursor is right here. So what I'm going to do is go to Object, Set Origin, and then select Origin to 3D Cursor. So now the origin will be right here. So now I can press R to rotate right off of that 3D cursor there. So R to rotate on the Z axis like this. And press R to rotate on the X axis like that. I'll press S to scale, and we'll even scale from right there. Okay, I'm going to press 1 to go to front view. Press S to scale. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate. When I do that, it makes the screen jump like that. I'm going to hold Shift, press D, then right click, press R to rotate on the Z axis like this. I'm going to hold Shift, press D, right click, R to rotate on the Z axis like this. Move that back some like that. Left click. I press R to rotate on the Y axis like this. And hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. Okay, I'm going to click here, hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan, hold Shift, press D to duplicate. I right click. Now I'm pulling this duplicate out. I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to click here, hold Alt, press S. I'm pressing Alt and S again to there we go, to make this like that. I'm going to click here. Push this forward like this. So now I'm going to left click on nothingness, go to object mode. Push this down, press S to scale this up. S to scale. I go to edit mode, click here, push this over. Push this up some. Push that down like that. Now the origin point is right here for that strand. So I'm going to hold Shift, right click. When I did that, I moved the 3D cursor to right here. So with the 3D cursor right here, I'll go to Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor. Okay, I'm going to just right here, I'm just using the crease brush. And this enables me to make this part right there. So now with that done, I'm going to click to go back to object mode, click here, this particular strand, go to edit mode, push that down, Just trying to position this back to edit mode. Now I'll go to left click to deselect. I'll go to object mode. Hold shift, press D. Move this. Press R to rotate on the Z axis like that. Shift D. That's the scale. R to rotate on the Z axis. Or rotate on the Y axis Just holding the middle mouse button to rotate. Now I'm just taking a look. I'm going to go to the original Bezier circle, turn that on. I'll turn on miscellaneous as well. With this selected, I'm going to hold shift, press D, right click, move this over. So now we have Bezier circle 2. I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm just trying to make this look somewhat different than the first one. So now I'm going to go to object mode. So I'll click this one here. And I'll change this to the Bezier circle .001 just so it looks different than the one next to it. So same thing here. Change this to Bezier circle 001. And I'm just seeing what happens as I move this stuff around here. I'm going to shift the middle mouse button to pan, left clicking. Okay, I'm going to turn these, the ability to manipulate them off as well as seeing those Bezier circles. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. I'll press 1. Zoom in. I'm going to click, trying to click, hold, click here, hold shift, press D, press R to rotate on the Z axis like this. Y axis, there we go. do Shift D. Or rotate on the Y axis. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to go to these eyebrows, go to Edit Mode. I'm going to hover here, hold Control, put in 2 loop cuts, left click once, then left click a second time to lock those in. Holding Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. Then I go to Face Select. Hold Shift as well as Alt. Click here, here, as well as here. I'm going to press E to extrude, then right click. I'm going to hold Alt, press S, hold Shift for fine selection, then extrude out like that. Okay, I'm going to left click, then go to object mode. Actually, I want to go to sculpt mode. Okay, when we go to sculpt mode, our symmetry mode is still off, which is good for what we're doing here. I'm going to go to the grab brush, press F. Pull down there, push up there. Then I'm going to go to inflate. Inflate here. I'm going to go to the grab brush, press F. Just to taper that more there. Taper this more here. I'll go back to object mode. In object mode, things look different because we have the modifiers show in object mode. They don't show in scope mode. So that's why things look different when we come out here. I'm going to press S, then Z. Thin these out some. Go back to scope mode. Go back to inflate more. Go back to object mode. I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. Okay, I'm going to press 1. Jumps when I do that. Okay, let's put change this facial expression. So we're in object mode. We're going to click on our main mesh. We're going to go to our object data here. We're going to click the plus button to form the bases of a shape key. We're going to click the plus button another time to make another shape key. This basis right here, this is basically this face right here. So first you need this when you work with shape keys. This is where you have your first change right here on this first key here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press 3 to go to the side view. We're going to click to turn this to a wireframe view. I'm going to left click, go to edit mode, left click to deselect that. I'm going to hold Control and the right mouse button to select this jaw area here, like that. I'm going to go to this pivot point and change it from the Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point, to the 3D cursor. Then going to hold Shift and then right click to put the 3D cursor here. We'll use this as a pivot point. Okay, so we're going to press R to rotate on the X axis. I'm holding Shift for Find control. So we just shut the mouth. I'm going to left click. Turn this back to solid view. Click here. Go back to object mode. Okay. I'm about to press the middle mouse button. It's going to jump. Prepare yourself. And it jumped. So you're looking, you're like, the mouth is still open. That's because we have to go to this setting right here and move this up. So with that done there, we need to go to scope mode. So we're going to go, you want to push this pin here before you go to scope mode to have scope mode be able to easily work here. So we're going to go to scope mode. We're going to go back. We're going to make sure we have our symmetry lock set for X. This here, we're going to hold shift to smooth this out. We're going to hold control shift and then the left mouse button to draw a mask right here. Then I'm going to go to the grab brush. Press F to make that slightly bigger. And in increments, I'm going to press F to make this smaller. Moving this up, I'm going to hold control. All right, I'm going to hold Alt, press M. I'm going to hold Shift to smooth this out. Now I'm going to go to the inflate brush. I'm going to go to the grab brush. Okay, so we'll go back to object mode. We'll go to our object data button. We'll take away this pin. So now if we take this setting down, our mouth will open. We can also have our mouth shut like that. Okay, I'm going to click on the mesh. Let's have one where he opens his mouth all the way up. So I'm going to click. Well, before we do that, I'm going to take this setting down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click plus. For this key here, I'm going to name this mouth shut. So with this clicked on, I'm going to go to edit mode. Press 3. I'll hover here, hold shift, press B to draw a zoom box to zoom in. I'm holding shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Rolling the mouse to zoom in. I'm going to click to the upper right to turn on the wireframe. I'm going to hold control as well as the right select to draw a lasso select around the lower jaw. We still have our cursor here as well as our pivot point set to the 3D cursor. So I'm going to click here, make sure connected proportional editing is on. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis. Holding shift for fine control. I'm going to let go of shift. Okay, I'm gonna left click on nothingness. I did to deselect. I'm gonna go back to object mode. I'm gonna left click on nothingness, click to go back to solid view, hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to take this setting up. Okay, because his mouth is, his teeth are separate. His teeth aren't going to move. Anyone who's new to Blender, by the way, don't think that the way I'm setting up this face that you can animate right from here. Because this is a sculpt, this geometry is too dense to really work with for animation. I'm just doing this so we can have some different, see some different facial expressions. Just get a general feel for this character. Just held the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, I'm going to double click here and name this mouth open. I'm going to take this setting down to like this. Then I'm going to click this arrow, and then I'm going to select new shape from mix. So a new shape from both of, all of the settings here so far. With that, I'm going to click this pen. I'm then going to click here, then go to sculpt mode. I'm controlling the middle mouse button to zoom in. And with this, what I'm doing is just pulling his brows down more. Go to inflate this like this. Just pulling his lips up some here. Holding control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. Okay, I'm going to go to object mode, unclick this pen. Now we take this setting up, the frowns. I double click here, name this frown. Just checking to see what this, okay. Got a mouth open. I can open his mouth some more. I'm going to click here. Click this arrow, select new shape from mix. Click this pen here. Go to sculpt mode. Hold shift, shift to smooth this out some. Not that when you smile, your eyebrows go up. I mean, his eyebrows here are a different object, so. If you're ever trying to smooth and it's not doing what you want, you can typically go to flatten, and flatten is like a stronger form of feels in a sense like a stronger form of smooth. Go and I'm gonna hold shift as well as control. Oh, that's right. It's a separate object, okay. So I'm gonna click, well, I'm gonna press F, shrink this down, click here, go to object mode. Unclick that pin. Okay, I'm gonna double click here. Naming this smile. So we take this setting up. He smiles. I figured I'd show you how to set up I need to turn this. One of these is still. There we go, that's the one. Show you how to set up. Take it, you know, as you model, sometimes it helps to have some different face expressions to look at. Okay, as far as these right here, how they don't blend into the face. Generally, when I sculpt or model, it's for the purpose of animating what I'm making at sometime in the future. So you can make these blend in with the face, like actually be a piece of the face. Because normally in the process of getting this ready for animation, I would retopologize this, and I would just retopologize like right over this. That's why I'm just leaving like this as it is here. I'm gonna hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. So I'm just taking a look at what we have here, and I like how this turned out. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. Hope you learned something from this. For all of those of you out there who liked videos on this channel and we share them, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel, you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.